Right, Curtis. So can you imagine spending over $1 million on what you think is your dream home, only to abandon it before you've ever had a chance to move in? There's been no murders, no fire, no hidden structural disaster, but you just move out. And that's exactly what happened in today's case, and it all started with a letter. Now I'm curious. I'm Alex.
And I'm Curtis.
And welcome to Well, Now I'm Curious. And this week's episode is the case of The Watcher. You've watched with me, haven't you? The Netflix version of this.
Yeah, briefly in the background where it caught my attention, but very frustrating and very strange.
But I'm going to give you the true version of it.
Not Hollywood's.
True version of events of what happened to this poor family. Back in 2014, a couple called Derek and Maria Broaddus bought what they thought was their ideal home, 657 Boulevard, Westfield, New Jersey. And sources claim that they purchased the house for around 1.3 to 1.4 million. But what happened to them before they even moved in, they found so terrifying that they never fully moved into the property, and they sold it at a loss of around $400,000 just 5 years later. The location of the home is around 20 miles from Manhattan. It's a wealthy commuter town. It has a population of around 30,000 people. It's well known for being safe, family friendly, and having low crime rates. And in fact, many families move to the area because it's considered to be one of the safest places within New Jersey to raise children. The house was built in 1905, and it was around 4,000 square feet with 6 bedrooms. So it's basically what you picture when you think of suburbia in movies.
And for the audience, if you can imagine this in your mind, this house from head to toe has got secret cavity walls which can be moved and transitioned anywhere you want without anyone realising.
How do you know that?
Because I've seen that many films. You see them old colonial houses that literally, you can literally walk through the entire cavities, and they've got staircases into each floor of the cavity. And there's a lot of horrors around.
You're probably right, but that is just your speculation on things. So
It's the first thing that comes to your head straight away.
Derek worked in insurance, and he'd just been promoted to senior vice president, so they had quite a lot of money at this point. And they also had 3 children. But before moving in, the couple decided to make renovations to the property. So we've got friends who've done the same things, haven't we? Where they've not moved in and
some
they've
people have the
renovated
luxury to renovate before moving in officially.
Well, in this case, I'm guessing that Derek and the family, they made frequent visits to the property, because one evening Derek checked the mailbox, and amongst the post was a handwritten envelope addressed to the new owner. There was no return address, and upon opening it, Derek found a typed letter. The opening of the letter seemed welcoming and friendly, and this is a direct quote from the letter. It said, "Dearest new neighbour at 657 Boulevard, allow me to welcome you to the neighbourhood." Then Derek continued to read. Again, this is a quote. "My grandfather watched the house in the 1920s. My father watched it in the 1960s. It is now my time." And as he continued to read, the letter began to send chills down his spine. Because again, this is another quote. "Do you know what lies within the walls of 657 Boulevard?"
Well, that's me. That's me on the dot straight away.
Yep.
Tick.
As if that's not disturbing enough, the writer continues to make reference to Derek's children, quoting, "Do you need to fill the house with the young blood I requested? Better for me. Once I know their names, I will call them and draw them to me." And then he or she signs himself The Watcher. Now, I personally find this letter unsettling because it's not a blackmailing letter or a ransom. The writer just seems obsessed with the house, or more disturbingly, the children, as we'll find out later on in letters. I would not be happy with it.
Well, the first thing come to mind is you'd be saying to yourself, "You cheeky, see you next Tuesday," wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Because, for one, you these 3 generations of not rights have got a lot of time on their hands to write letters ranging from the 1920s all the way to current day 2014.
Well, that's
that just says how.
But that's provided he or she is telling the truth. Could be
But-
completely lying about the
But
grandfather
that
and
just shows
the
you how
father.
much of a deranged individual that you're dealing with.
Yeah.
Or that it runs well within the denim of the family. Of the denim, I mean the DNA.
Derek took a moment to take it all in and piece together all these things into his mind. So now he knows that the writer, or the watcher as they like to call themselves, they knew about the contractors, they knew about his children, and the letter arrived just 4 days after the purchase of the property. So could it have been somebody who knew the family on a personal level? Could it have been a neighbour watching and listening? Could it have been somebody involved directly in the sale of the house, or one of the contractors? We don't know. Now, what I do admire about this couple is Derek and Maria, they wasted no time. They didn't move in. They contacted Westfield police, who visited the house, and they did take the letter very seriously. It was Officer Leonard Lugo who was one of the first officers involved. The police advised the couple to keep the letters and told them not to destroy any DNA or fingerprint evidence, and they also instructed them not to mention this to any of the neighbours for obvious reasons. The police, as part of their investigation, contacted previous owners John and Andrea Woods. John and Andrea Woods had lived at the home for 20 years, and when they were asked if they'd experienced anything similar to this letter, they did admit to receiving one, but only after they sold the house. So you can ask, why one letter in 20 years, yet the new family received their first letter within days of receiving ownership of the property. And that's a mystery, because it seems like the watcher remained quiet for the entirety of the Woods' time at the property, which strongly suggests to me that it's somebody who wanted to target the Broaddus family rather than anybody else.
But the fact that, like I say, whether the letter's telling the truth, the fact that they've said a generation, that means it's someone on the street. If it's truth in saying that generations have watched, you get neighbourhood watchers,
if they were telling
neighbourhood
the truth,
watchmen,
yeah.
neighbourhood watchers. So if he's telling the truth, that implies that it could very possibly be a neighbour.
Could be. It could be the Woods themselves. You know, they might not have been happy at what they sold the house for. You just don't know, because a family member of mine knows somebody who bought a house, and the previous tenant, when it was like 4:00 in the morning, and they could hear somebody out in the back garden. So they look out back, and the previous tenant's in the back garden pruning the rose bush.
Imagine someone coming pruning your bushes.
Yeah. So that was really weird. And when she confronted her, because apparently this woman kept coming back and
So she had an
tending to the
attachment to
garden.
this.
Yeah, and she kind of was saying all these crazy things about the house, and how if she didn't look after these bushes, bad things had happened. Similar to what's being said in these letters, I think, at the minute.
People, like I say, people have
Attachments.
a very big attachments, and they can't. Like, it's like a bond, isn't it?
Yeah.
But to a bond to something that also is strange. But then again, there's clearly something in the mind that there's more of a connection
like hoarders,
there.
isn't it?
But you can understand when you have a bond with another spirit or another animal or man or woman,
Yeah,
because there's a conveyance of communication, whether it's through body language or it's through speech. But that's what's strange, because you don't get that with an object, do you? So the fact that someone can build a bond with an object is, but that means they must communicate somehow, or in their mind that they can communicate. Do you know what I mean?
There's that case. Well, there's that. I don't know what the illness is called, where they fall in love and they marry, like things like the Eiffel Tower or an archery set. You know,
But societies
like
give it a name.
Yeah, I can't remember what it's called. So anyway, back to this. So the Woods, they claim that the letter thanked them for looking after the house so well. The Broadduses at this point, they didn't just leave the investigation to the police. They hired a private investigator and former FBI agent to do research on the neighbours. That FBI agent checked local history surrounding the property. And then at this point, paranoia is really kicking in, as it would, because your children are involved. It's a situation that no parent wants to ever be in, where your children are being mentioned by somebody or something that you have no idea who or where they are. So everybody became a suspect, and everybody seemed suspicious at this point to the couple. The family installed security cameras and began to keep records of unusual activity in and around the house, such as people acting strange. They kept records of dog walkers, people knocking on the door, parked cars, and more. It became all-consuming, and it did begin to drive Derek crazy. You know, it's not fun. I wouldn't imagine wanting to spend your entire day figuring out who this person is.
Well, no, it's a psychological disaster, and it's you're intruding on a man's family and a man's.
Because even if you're not actually watching these things,
no, it's an attack.
You psychologically.
It's a psychological attack.
Yeah.
It's a mental attack. But you're targeting a man's family, which is his most important and prized proud possession. That his job is to provide, to protect, and look after. So, and if you're targeting that and trying to attack it and threatening it as well, and especially when you don't know who the hell it is, and you can't do anything about it,
exactly,
it must be traumatizing.
You don't even know where to look at that.
Well, no, you won't know, but you like. There's one thing someone threatening, but someone threatening that you don't know who it is. That's just.
And this person as well is clearly, I say he or she, well, put it this way, they don't care that the police are involved, so they're still watching. And a second letter arrives 2 weeks after the first. So at this point, whoever is writing these letters, they know that the police are involved, but they either don't care or they 100% know that they're not going to get caught. And the second letter, the writer addresses it to the Broaddus family, which is a spelling mistake because, as we know, they're called the Broaddus, not the Broaddus family. And then this can cause speculation on whether or not they actually knew the family, or if they'd overheard the contractors saying the name and misheard it, or could it have been an intentional mistake, to throw investigators off altogether. But the most disturbing part about this letter is that the writer, or the watcher as they like to be known, highlights the fact that he or she now knows the children's names, quoting, "I am pleased to know your names and the names of the young blood you have brought to me." Continuing with, "You certainly say their names often." Now, as a parent, whether or not you believe this person to actually be listening in or taking a lucky guess, it's extremely unnerving. And just based on the fact that your children have been mentioned by somebody, you have no clue where they are. It's very unsettling. And my mind would go, as yours did, to somebody hiding within the property, because there have been cases of people secretly living in lofts, attics, inside wall cavities, as you said. But in this case, up to now, as far as we know, there's no evidence.
People hide in very small places, but them cavity, there's quite a bit of room in them cavities in buildings like that.
I know. Well,
there's quite a bit of space in them.
I mean, did you see that one where that man, his food was going missing out of his kitchen, and he put CCTV in, and this woman crawled out like something off a horror movie.
Like something out of Insidious.
Out of the smallest cupboard you've ever seen.
Oh, The Grudge in it.
Yeah, it was so creepy. So, I mean, that can happen.
Or The Ring, where that girl crawls out the TV.
Yeah.
From the well.
That's what it looked like. In my mind now, thinking about it, that's what it looked like. So before I mention the next part of the letter, it's important to note that the porch, am I saying that right?
The porch?
The
front porch.
Yeah, front porch of the house wasn't clearly visible from the street, so it would suggest that the watcher had a closer vantage point than anybody first realised. So they asked, making reference to one of Derek's daughters, is she the artist in the family? As they'd apparently seen a painting on an easel in the enclosed porch. From the first letter alone, I would have had a nervous breakdown and left town. But the darkest part of these letters comes when the writer asks, will the children play in the basement? Continuing to say, again, this is a quote, I would be very afraid if I were them. If you were upstairs, you would never hear them scream. And that would be me. I would be out. Kids would never be going near that property ever again. In fact, I'd probably leave.
You'd have to, so either it's a construction worker, and was these letters were already being sent? Was it being sent before the construction started or not, or after, or while?
Well, apparently he sent one to the family before,
Right, so they're ruled out straight away then. So it's not construction,
but it wasn't a threatening letter to them. It thanked them for the
but
way.
it was still a letter though, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was still a letter.
And it was still by the watcher.
Apparently, so.
Right, so it's still by the watcher. So the construction is ruled out straight away. So it's someone who. So most likely it's got to be a neighbour, because it's someone who's got the same layout, who knows the house.
Yeah.
Or someone who actually lives inside that house that no one knows about.
Yeah,
Which
could
is
be.
so that.
But you would think though, if they've got construction going on, that unless they didn't knock walls down.
But if this says if on a scenario where it's a person who's lived in the cavity of the house the entire time with the existing owner, but lived peacefully and happily, and they're pissed off that the owners have sold the house, so now they're getting retribution on it. But
yeah, but I did read.
You're gonna know where to hide.
I did read one source that did say that, but I can't remember if this source was verified or not. That one of the letters to the family before the Broadduses, I'm sure one of the letters made reference to the watcher telling the Woods to sell the house, but I can't remember if I verified that or not.
Because there might have been the first letter they got, was it threatening or was it just like?
It was quite threatening, and
just the first one.
Was not threatening. It didn't threaten the children. It didn't threaten, but it was unnerving because they mentioned the children and the young blood, and he'd call them to him and all this, suggesting that there's kind of like an evil force that. I mean, referring to a child as young blood, that's really spooky. That's not okay.
Yeah, so they're portraying as an entity or a force, or as a house being alive, sort of thing.
Yeah.
To try and boycott the fact that it's just a person doing it.
Yeah, all this is like really violating to know that somebody's been in your space, because as you know, just so you all know, I have a shop and I left a window open in it accidentally last week, and a cat had got in, and I felt so violated.
An evil mastermind cat coming
because I thought that somebody had somehow climbed up the roof and thrown the dog up there. And used my shop as a place to live for the weekend, and I felt so violated, and I still feel violated that a cat got in there. So yeah, even that, and that was an animal. So to know that a person is in there amongst you, or to even think that a person is in there amongst you watching your children, and I think you said, didn't you, about there's films where paintings. Do you know that's actually a thing?
Eyes.
I have actually listened to a podcast where a painting, the eyes were moving in it, and then a hand came out from behind the painting, and it was somebody living in the walls, killing the residents. Oh, yeah, honest. No.
You see it on
I would die a thousand deaths.
On manors or big, like say, old colonial houses, and they've got big paintings.
Creepy.
And they've either got like they open the eyes so they can look.
Oh my gosh,
and then they shut them so you don't know.
That's giving me the willies right now.
Yeah, you've seen that loads of times. But like I say, there's so many secret passages and trapdoors and.
Well, I suppose they're built for that.
Well, yeah, but obviously if someone can take advantage of that and use it to their advantage, they're quite dangerous, aren't they?
Very.
But you think you're alone, but you're not.
And that's great, because do you remember years ago I was adamant.
You think it's your house, but it's not.
I was adamant there was somebody living in our loft.
Yeah. And
I kept sending you up there. I still believe that there probably was somebody, but
I still kept going, even though there was no one there.
Right, okay. The writer continued within the letter to ask which bedrooms they'd all sleep in and who would get the bedroom facing the street, and this information seemed to excite the watcher into saying, and I quote, "Then I can plan better." Plan what exactly, I don't know, because there was no explanation. It was just a dead-ended remark. So, again, as the parent of those children, I would not be. I'd be done. I would not be happy.
You'd be like, say, any form of sanity that you will have had would have been gone.
Yeah.
Because I take it the kids got threatened multiple times.
It's more the like luring them, talking about luring them into places and will they play in the basement because you won't be able to hear them scream, or who's going to get this bedroom? And I
But
can
someone
play.
could still, even if someone weren't in there, but someone who knows, because an estate on an house, they're all built, the architecture's built to say, so there'll be someone speculating a scenario because they know the layout of the property.
It's just,
you know, because the kids may never have played in the basement, but
No.
they're creating a scenario.
they're creating as well
in
a
mind.
psychological thing where like those children will possibly be too terrified to.
Well, you're gonna lock the basement door, and you're not gonna let anyone go down it, are you?
No. Now, the writer or the watcher, as they like to be called, clearly, I think the renovations really got under the skin because.
Did it get worse as the renovations?
Yeah, it seemed to get really angry.
So that's either a next door neighbour because next to where the renovations happening and he's getting pissed off for the workmen, or it definitely is someone who lives inside the house who's got an attachment.
Who's gonna, and it could be that he knows that the contractors are going to find where he's been, he or she have been living.
Yeah. And the more threatening the letters get, and the more scary they get, hopefully, that the renovations stop.
Yeah.
And that, because like I said earlier on, but if they was happy with the old owners of the house and disrupted
it's all a bit weird because you can think like a neighbour not liking it, or you can think like he or she doesn't want to be found if they are in the walls, or then it goes on to say that the house is in pain and that the couple are stealing its history.
But that's supposed to throw you off the scent, though.
And then you think, well, it's personifying the house or adding an emotional connection to the house. It's just really weird. In the letter, he or she quoted, I'm going to say tut, but it's spelled tsk, tsk, tsk. Bad move. You don't want to make 657 Boulevard unhappy. And so, like I said, this quote makes it feel like there's some kind of force within the walls of the house, which the watcher is aware of.
The house is alive.
Yeah, however, it could just be somebody who's just completely trying to spook this family into submission. But the overall tone of the letter is quite threatening, and it's almost as though the writer has, like I said, gotten some strange emotional attachment to this house on a completely different level to a normal person. And I don't know what's more unsettling, the fact that they know so many personal things, or the fact that the family have no idea who or were this person or people, because there could be more than one. Now, on the 18th of July 2014, a month after the first letter, a third letter then arrived. The family had completely delayed moving in, as I've said, which is completely understandable. And the police were underway with their investigations. But at this point, the media hadn't yet gotten hold of the story. I don't know if it was boredom that prompted the watcher with this third letter, but they ask, where have you gone to? 657 Boulevard is missing you. So again, personifying the house, making it more creepy because it feels like the writer is making it seem like the house is alive or that there's a force inside of it. Make the house sound like the reason for questioning where the family is, rather than saying, I'm missing you or we're missing you. And the letter also makes complaints about, again, wanting the contractors to stop. And from the third letter, we know that the watcher knows more details of the family's situation surrounding the property. They know that the family haven't moved in yet. They sound disappointed, and the tone of this letter changes slightly from threatening to frustrated. And this might be frustration that they're not playing into this person's hands, almost like they want the family inside to cause more terror. But then that doesn't really make sense, because if you wanted somebody to move into the house so you could mess with them, why would you then scare them out of the move in the first place? It just doesn't make any sense. So either they genuinely wanted them there for reasons unknown, or they never expected the family to take the letter seriously, and the fact that they did, they carried it on. Or scaring them was the whole point anyway, but the family gave up too easily. I don't really know, but again, this letter, it did seem like the writer or the watcher was more frustrated.
Did he ever know the name? He only called them by the family name and not by individual names?
No, we'll find out in a minute. He did call them by the first name.
So he's learnt the names?
He or she, yeah.
So
or
that's, right, okay. But regardless of it, like I say, the contractors are ruled out in my opinion. Yeah, so it's still a neighbour or something in the walls that's been listening to and watching to find out what the names, because end of the day you find out names from someone calling you, don't you? So
Yeah. At this point, can you imagine you're paying for a house that you're absolutely petrified to move into? You don't want to move your family into it. You're still paying for renovations on that house. The police have got no leads. They've got no answers. You sit wondering when the next letter will arrive. You know, it's deeply disturbing to a person's mental health.
yeah, of course, but in a sense, I'd be like, you'd be trial and error on things. So they've got the money, so they're living somewhere else while this is going on.
Yeah.
So
good
technically,
for them and all, because I wouldn't move in there.
Well, what I'd do is, I'd just you wouldn't open the letter, let your letterbox fill up, because someone's going to get, when someone plays games with you, if you react, that's what they're getting. So if you don't show that it's affecting you, the attacker gets bored.
If you've got children, are you really going to run that risk?
No, but you'd do a test. You'd have to scenario test in the sense of, don't open the letters, keep your family safe, but don't move into the house. Don't spend too much time at the house.
Yeah.
And just see what happens to your family. Because if you start getting letters and they're following you to where you are living and you're getting posted there, then that's different. But if it's all being posted to just this thing, it's a psychological attack. Yeah. So you'd take yourself out of the equation. Yeah. So you'd sell the fucking house straight away, and because you ain't good, because it's like a needle in an haystack, that, and it's not that. Someone's got to own up to it, and if you're getting no fingerprints, you're getting nothing. How many houses were on this estate?
I'm not sure. There was 30,000 residents, so
in the town.
Yeah, so
but on the estate. But on this estate, because you could have hundreds of houses on the estate, all built exactly the same, and it could be anyone.
Could be.
And who's going to own up to it? They've got to slip up. You've got to do this enough for them to slip up to find out who the thing is. You put yourself out of the equation.
Yeah. Well, they tried to, because in early 2015 they decided they were going to sell the property, but the problem they then had was that they couldn't sell the property because potential buyers would pull out of the sales immediately after finding out about the letters. So then they reduced the asking price of the house several times, but it just wouldn't sell. But legally, I don't think they had to disclose the letters, but morally, they wanted to give the buyers full transparency on that matter.
But that's their opinion, isn't it?
It is, which leads me to the next point, because the Broadduses did decide to sue the previous owners, John and Andrea Woods, because they believed that the Woods should have disclosed their letter that they received.
So basically, this family likes spending money because they paid a lawyer to file a case against someone who legally has done nothing wrong.
Well, yeah. So that was my next point. The Woods argued against this, saying that they'd lived there for over 20
and
years,
that had an issue.
In which time they'd only ever received that one letter.
But even then, how do you know they're telling the truth? They're telling the truth.
Well, this is what I mean. And so they only received that one letter, and although it was strange, it was harmless. And they also argued, like you said, that they didn't think it legally needed to be declared. Then the media got their hands on the story, so now it's national news. The house becomes famous. News crews arrive. People begin to drive by just to catch a glimpse of the property, which then it made it more difficult to sell the property because the letters are then becoming known nationally. So everybody knows about these letters now.
But in just going off the points that we've just been discussing then, from my opinion, this fella doesn't seem very strategical either. The father of this house, this Derek, doesn't seem like he's very streetwise whatsoever.
Yeah, well.
It doesn't seem like he's thinking through his actions very well.
But would you be thinking straight at this point?
Yeah, but you'd have to.
I know, yeah.
Because this isn't... If it had done it in a space of a week, and because people make irrational decisions, but when you have time to think about it and someone's trying to play games, you're like, come on.
Yeah.
I'm going to... You're having it.
We'll bleep that word out.
Yeah, sorry, my apologies. You have to make sure that you're at the top of your game, because otherwise it's gonna beat you and destroy you.
Yeah. In 2016, they came up with another idea because they couldn't sell it, like they're struggling to sell it. So they came up with another idea. They asked for permission to demolish the house and use the land to split it into two separate plots. But that didn't work because the planning board rejected the application, stating that the two proposed plots would be too narrow under local planning rules. So at this point, the Broadduses then begin to deal with public scrutiny, because a lot of people then start to think that this is a ploy to get rid of the property, or they may have regretted buying the property in the first place.
Well, so it's like an excuse to sell it.
And that they've written the letters themselves. So,
yeah, but I bet some people are capable of doing that, though.
But yeah, I bet they are. But if you didn't, though, that's so frustrating, because if you genuinely didn't write them letters, not only are you dealing with this creepy scenario and this situation that you're in, but then you're being made suspects of your own terrifying ordeal. It's awful.
How messed up and deluded for authorities or organisations to think that. So I think clearly, it was just
general.
Yeah, but that's not normal behaviour, though.
Well, I think when I go further down, I think you might see why this became a thing.
So this family odd now?
No.
Right,
No.
Okay.
In February 2017, after failed attempts to sell the property.
So this is 3 years on?
Yeah.
And they still haven't sold it? And they've still not sold it?
Still not sold it.
And they live in it?
They won't move into it. No, I don't know why. What was that?
You wait for me to start rapping or something.
After failed attempts to sell the property and after the demolition plan was rejected, they did manage to find a family who rented the property from them. So the renter were a couple with adult children and several large dogs.
Several for the audience is 5 or more.
Is it actually?
Yes, so just for your...
Is that actually true?
Yes, so for you...
Have you looked that up?
Couple is exactly 2. A few is 3 or 4. And several is 5 or more.
Really? I thought several was just...
No. So, they've got a very good pack of dogs, which would be...
Yeah, so because I was just going to say this family weren't afraid of the letters as far as we know.
Did they make any comment on the letter? Did they get any themselves? Did they get any letters directly to their family name?
If you'll let me.
Oh, I'm jumping the gun again.
So before they'd moved in, the letters had stopped for around 2.5 years from the first one back in 2014. So just when everyone thinks it's over,
the watcher comes back.
Another letter arrived 2 weeks after the new tenants move in.
Drop the mic.
Now, this letter was dated 13th of February 2017, and according to sources, this is the same day that Derek and Maria gave depositions in the lawsuit against the Woods family, the previous
about
tenants.
Not releasing.
So was that a coincidence? Was the watcher still watching? Did they have knowledge of exactly what was happening in the legal case? Was it one of the Woods? Was it one of the Woods' children? I don't know if the Woods had children, actually. Was it, we don't know.
Yeah, it could be the Woods, couldn't it? You can't add them into the situation.
Because their letter thanked them for how they looked after the house. So this new letter was the one that showed the most disdain for the Broadduses. It began, quote, "To the vile and spiteful Derek and his wench of a wife, Maria." That was to answer your question earlier when you asked, did he or she...
Repeat that again, please.
So the quote from the letter was, "To the vile and spiteful Derek and his wench of a wife, Maria." You asked me earlier, did he... call them by the first or surnames, and this is
it, right? So the third suspect now is the Woods,
right? Well, we're going to go into the suspects in a minute.
We don't know that. This is called speculative. This is building a speculative case. But just to give my, because if I get some bits right, this is the whole point, isn't it?
Go for it.
It's.
I'll put 5p in you can go for longer.
About 50.
Put 50p in you. Come on.
Right. No, so obviously the Woods, this is a condition where attachment is, the condition is anthropomorphist.
Is that when you form an attachment to an object?
When you form an attachment to an object, is basically... you have any personal history or an appreciation for an object that you form. So, like I say, these conditions, as we've discussed,
could be
but that will also prove knowing that the names obviously through legal documents.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And for knowing the family, like the family would have come, they would have met them. So they could. But and the other thing as well, so on that side of things, I would like to know, why did the Woods sell the house?
I don't know.
For what reason?
I couldn't.
So I think that's important. though. I think we should know because
After 20 odd years living there, maybe it was to downsize. It's a big house for 2 people.
Yeah, but what if the wife or the husband didn't want to, and it was like forced from the other half?
Yeah, well, it could
be. And they're taking their anger out and the frustration
remember
out.
I was telling you about a family member who has a friend who
likes pruning rose bushes.
Yes, that was the case. I think her elderly mum sold it and she couldn't deal with it.
Yeah, that's what I mean. So that's up there now. So we've got 3.
Yeah.
3 suspects currently.
Can I tell you what's in the rest of this letter?
You can do.
So he or she calls...
You may continue.
He or she calls the couple idiots, saying, quote, "You wonder who the watcher is. Turn around, idiots. Maybe you even spoke to me. Or maybe you know and are too scared to tell anyone." So she made Derek question every interaction that he's ever had, made him question every neighbour, every person who smiled at them or wished them a good day, every conversation. And then the writer then celebrated the board rejecting the demolition in a bizarre way, saying, this is a quote, "657 Boulevard survived your attempted assault. My soldiers of the Boulevard followed my orders to a T. They carried out their mission and saved the soul of 657 Boulevard." And then he or she ended the letter with, "All hail the watcher."
I reckon it's towards me. You know why I reckon it's towards?
I think so.
Also, because I once, and this is anthropomorphous, I worked on a property installing windows and doors for a friend of mine, for his friend. And the woman, obviously, as people do, bought a rundown property and gutted it, ripped it all out and renovated. And the woman who previously owned it called with her husband because she was in the area, and she walked inside the property that's not hers anymore. I didn't know because obviously I'm just...
Yeah.
And she started crying.
Oh,
and she went, "What have you done to my house?" And I was like, "What?"
So it's similar to
and
this,
her husband like had to like obviously like she kind of lost strength to so it carried her out. And I just thought, ouch, that's so strange, because the house was not in very great condition, where they had it.
Yeah.
And obviously and she was distraught, and it's like, wow.
Yeah. It does happen.
So the Woods, I reckon one of the either the husband or the wife was forced into selling it and they didn't want to.
Yeah.
And they've found out that renovations are going on and they're destroying what they've built and what they've maintained for so long that they make it. Yeah, I think at the moment it's definitely.
Could be. But just going back with him saying about it survived the attempted assault, this raises a question as to whether or not the watcher or the writer of these letters genuinely believed that they were protecting some kind of soul or presence within the house, or if, again, was it just a psychological attack? Or, like you said, is it an emotional thing?
But, sorry, just to cut you quick, going off, if Mrs. Wood or Mr. Wood has formed an attachment with the house, because, like we were saying before, to create a bond with someone, you communicate, whether it's through body language or language, to convey, to create a relationship. Yeah. So if people do anthropomorphous, create... I'm very bad at punctuating, by the way, but so I might be butchering the hell out of this. So if I am in the comments, please correct me. But technically, think like this: if these people who form attachment and bonds to objects that technically can't speak or have any body language, do they create that themselves?
Yeah.
So is she speaking through the house?
Yeah.
You know, because like she knows what the house is saying to, like, because it's obviously mentally disturbing.
Or it could be, or maybe there is like a ghost presence there that
she's attached to. Yeah, well, that's what I mean. So is it talking to her and she's speaking?
We're saying her. It could have been her husband.
Yeah, but
it might not have been any of them.
It may,
but yeah, no, I get what you're saying.
On this scenario, anyway.
This fourth letter did get a lot of bit threatening, but it never specified exactly what would happen to the Broadduses, but it did make suggestions and possibilities such as car crashes, fires, broken bones, etc. The earlier letters targeted the children, but this one was specifically aimed at something bad happening to Derek or Maria.
And, sorry, she could also be the intruder in the woods could also be the intruder in the wall because they know the house like back of their hand. There you go. So there's merging into scenario 2.
The renters who were in this property now, they didn't move out after they received the letter. Reportedly, they agreed to stay provided extra security cameras were put in and around the property. But maybe this is because the threats weren't really directed at them. They were still directed at the Broadduses. So I don't know.
And this is on the new tenants?
Well, the letter came when the new tenants...
But it wasn't aimed at the new tenants?
It wasn't aimed at them, no.
Right.
So
right.
Theories and suspects, your favourite bit. Right, before you say anything, let me tell you one of the main suspects.
You just tell me when to speak.
No, I'm not. So the Langford family, now they lived, I think, kind of next door, but next door's not like next door here, where we're really close. Next door, I'm guessing here is quite a distance.
But still close, anyway, close enough.
I digress. So the Langford family, the mother was in her 90s, and Michael Langford, in particular, she did have other children, but Michael Langford in particular, he was in his 60s at the time of the letters and was well known for his eccentric behaviour. Michael Langford had lived next door for decades, providing him with a good vantage point that could explain some of the details in the letters. But the Langfords did continuously deny any involvement in the letters. Sources claimed that the Langfords were very angry at the accusations and even made reference to the legal fees which the allegations had cost them. Michael's brother, I did find a quote from his brother, but there were a lot of swearing in it, so it literally bleeped out so many words. So there was no point in putting it in. He was really angry. He was so angry.
Who the son was?
No, Michael Langford's brother.
Oh, so what? Because being accused of it?
He was just so frustrated that his brother had been accused because not only had his brother been accused, because this is, if there genuinely wasn't anything to do with it, this is another family who suffered at the hands of these letters.
Well, like I say, it's had media coverage, hasn't it? So.
And Michael Langford died in 2020, so his brother claimed that he never received any formal apology from the police for the troubles. They were kind of attacked without any.
And they were saying
proof.
that it meant that kind of like was a part of his death. Maybe.
No, I don't think he was saying that it was part of his death. I think he was just angry at the whole thing that they'd been accused and never had an apology and the legal fees, because I think they tried to...
Well, you have to pay for a lawyer, wouldn't you?
Yeah, of course. So now, DNA was recovered from one of the envelopes of the letters, and the DNA was female, but it wasn't a match for Maria or the Langford sister. So that
who's Maria?
Maria's...
One of the Langfords?
No, Maria's Derek's wife, so the Broaddus.
Yeah, well, it won't. Oh, so that she's not writing it. That rules them out writing it herself. Yeah. Right, sorry, go on.
So, other suspects, other neighbours. So, the other neighbours could have also watched the house and they did know the area. Some information could be found out easily, it's because people do talk, but there wasn't really any evidence found to connect
did they get
any neighbours.
Did they get any forensics off the woods?
Not as far as I read, they didn't.
That's a bit.
They might have done, but I've done so many searches on this because I wanted to get as much information as possible, and I didn't find any. If you could see the wig, he sat so proud of himself.
I know something you don't.
Another thing could be a potential buyer who was outbid by the Broadduses, but again, no evidence is found to support this.
But you wouldn't go to that extent.
No. A person...
And if that was the case, if that was the case, they'd lowered the price, so they would have got a cheaper thing.
Yeah.
So that rules that out, in my opinion.
Another potential is a person who was completely obsessed with the house. This could explain the emotions included in the letters.
I think this investigator's crap.
Personifying the house, it could also explain the hatred for the renovations and the wanting to protect it, but it doesn't explain the fixation on the children unless it was just a ploy to scare them enough to leave the property altogether. I don't know. Hey, it could have been a squatter who just wanted the house from... Anyway, the Broadduses...
Well, that was one of the scenarios. Someone who lives in the cavity wall.
Yeah, Frogger.
Yeah.
The Broadduses themselves, that was another theory.
Don't think so, because you your money up the wall. Because if it don't
Well,
make sense, any of it. Well,
1 minute, because one of the theories on the letter is that Derek and Maria wrote the letters themselves as a result of financial pressures. The theory doesn't make much sense because they made a loss of around £400,000 and had years of stress. The police also never found any evidence to support this theory, and the police also reportedly commented on Maria's demeanour during interviews, where she seemed to show signs of genuine distress and terror. Now, Derek he was reported to have written letters to neighbours after moving away, and he said he did this in anger because he did believe it was one of the neighbours who sent the letters. And
but you can't prove it. What are you going to do by sending a letter?
Reports claim that he did regret his decision on writing these letters, but at the time he was frustrated with the whole ordeal.
Derek's made countless errors and mistakes. Because everything's about what your action does and what you're trying to get. So even if he sent what's he expecting now to? Oh, it was me. I'm really sorry. What's writing a letter going to do to a neighbour? Absolutely stupid.
I think his mental health is absolutely shot at.
Definitely,
and he's probably just lashing out. His
brain cells weren't firing with her.
To do. The new owners have never, as far as we know, have never received letters from the Watcher, which leads people to still believe that the Broadduses were the real writers of the letters. I don't believe they were the real writers of the letters. I think they were just targeted because somebody didn't like them, or like you say, it could have been the Woods who just didn't want them in the house. But why would they not terrorise this family if it was the Woods? This is my thing.
But that's like a personal vendetta, then, isn't it?
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it's targeted at the owner. They're just tenants.
And I suppose the tenants weren't the ones doing the construction.
The renovations. So to me, the first thing you wouldn't say anything. You just sell the house. You wouldn't, if you legally don't have to disclose anything. You just sell it. You try and get your money back, and you just, because in their rented property where they was at, they had no issues. There was nothing posted there. The children weren't threatened and attacked there. So you just move. You just wouldn't even bother. It's not worth the money. It's not worth the stress.
No.
It's not worth anything.
No.
It could be but on the fact of the Woods, they know the house inside and out. They'll know the family by names due to the legal process within selling the property. If the husband or the wife has an attachment, the fingerprints and forensics wasn't taken from either of the Woods that you can find.
I don't know that. I couldn't find it.
Right, well, if you haven't, but they haven't, so that's rules that out. But the other thing as well is, this person would have had to deliver the letter.
Yeah. So somebody would have.
So you would have cameras.
Yeah.
And you would have been able to,
We're just speculating here. We don't know
how frequent did these letters come, by the way?
So you had 4 days, I think it was, from them moving in, because they didn't move in. Mm-hmm. Then 1 2 weeks later, then 1 a month later, and then 1 2.5 years later.
So you just spot. That to me rules out a neighbour. Because why would you be stuck? Why? Because the other thing as well is, you've got to look at it like this. Why would a neighbour be annoyed? Maybe because the renovations would have stopped when? Because they tried to sell the house. So did the renovations get finished?
I don't know.
Presuming the renovations would have been finished.
Yeah, probably.
Right, or even. But you got to think like this. If a neighbour didn't like you, or they had something against you, but you haven't moved in. So it's not like there's a feud between. So that had kind of.
Like I said, we're speculating. Yeah. To me, the Woods seem the most likely, but obviously we don't know.
Once they'd sold the property, what happened then? Did the new owner get a letter?
No.
It finished with them?
Yeah. So I put here, the new owners have never received the letters from the Watcher, which leads people to believe that the Broadduses were the real writers or the real targets.
No, I think the Woods.
That's what I
reckon it's the Woods, mate.
And then other possibilities are postal workers, builders, estate agents, former residents, somebody completely unknown.
But not
Could
the
have been
Woods.
somebody who he worked with, for, against, I don't know. The Westfield police have officially kept the case open, but as of today, the case remains unsolved and one of the great mysteries. Whatever the truth is, nobody has ever been identified, proven, or charged, and to this day, nobody knows who the watcher really was.
Well, the sheriff's department needs
What are
to
your
up the game,
thoughts?
because that, I think, to me, the woods need investigating.
Yeah, I don't, like I say, it was, yeah, it is. So if you've enjoyed today's episode, please drop a comment below.
What do
and
you
if you want
think?
more stories that will pique your curiosity, please like and subscribe. And we'll also be doing listener stories. So if you do have a story you'd like us to share on the pod, please, like paranormal, anything creepy, unsolved, anything like that, please email your stories to wellnowimcuriousofficial@gmail.com. Sorry, Kurt, I interrupted you. I just wanted to get that bit out.
It will be. What do you think?
I think from everything I've researched, it's most likely to be the woods or somebody who was living in the walls and the woods didn't know they were living there. But I think it sounds like it's most likely to be the woods, but there's no evidence for or against.
Well, let's say, just to wrap this up, to have a bit of a deep dive, let's say that someone randomly was living in that cavity inside the house, to send a letter 2 years on. What? Because they never moved in, and tenants still lived in. So to me, it just doesn't make sense.
No,
like, because whoever's in the house, and the fact that they weren't in the house, would be terrorized for.
Yeah.
You think someone who lives in there, and to do it 2 and a bit years on, and then not to finish. I think the woods, who haven't really been looked into that much. From what I've
researched,
I'm only going off what
I just might not have been able to find it, but I researched it for 2 years.
Well, this is a good thing about doing this, because we can do part 2s and expand off these if it's worth looking into. Because the woods, if he or she had a personal vendetta against that family because they bought and took over that ownership from that point, and they changed and renovated the house.
Yeah.
The next owner who bought it hasn't done anything wrong.
Yeah.
So
true.
the vendetta is against Derek and his family.
Yeah.
So to me, obviously you don't know, and this is just to speculate, but I would be doing a deeper investigation, the woods.
Yeah, definitely.
Because it just doesn't, and it's like so the next door neighbours, like you just said, got tormented by the media and by, I'm presuming, Derek's lawyers. But the woods did they get?
Well, they tried to sue him for not telling them about the letter, didn't they?
But that's it.
Yeah, well, from the information that I could find, that was it. But obviously, it might not.
But for the information that you've gathered, the woods have been have been.
I must admit, when I were writing it, I did think it was the woods. I did, but again.
Well, at least we've both come to a speculative agreement.
But it'd be interesting to find out what you guys think.
Yeah, of course.
But yeah, please like and subscribe, and it's been fun.
And if you think we should look into the woods, then let us know.
I knew that one would get your juices flowing. You're like, I knew that one.
I enjoyed that one. Yeah, but it's like.